Every single day, people take unwanted or unused items to thrift and antique stores across the country. But as the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and we're here to prove it. Identify valuable things before you throw them away. Join us as we show and tell of treasures found and sold by a full-time reseller with the hopes of helping you find some treasures of your own. Welcome to the What's Sold podcast.
Welcome back to the What's Sold podcast. I am Brandon. This is my friend Matt. Some of you know his El Luchador name as Rusty the Reseller. I feel like you had that luchador mask. I feel like Rusty should go out in the luchador mask. That's just my vibe on Rusty.
Yeah. I mean, some more names came up recently. My son, still very young, and he likes to wrestle with Dad. And the other day, we were playing. He likes to, I'm usually the villain. Almost always. He's the hero. Sure. That makes sense. I mean, that's real life, too. You're always the villain when you're the parent, right?
Yeah.
And so he goes, "You're Soul Crusher." So that was the name he gave me. Yeah. And I'm Pain Blood. Pain Blood was the name he gave himself. And about halfway through the wrestling match, he became Dr. Pain Blood. So I was like, okay, kind of a Bond villain name. But, I think either of those could fly in the arena. Pain Blood. I've laughed so hard at that.
Pain Blood. For a 6-year-old boy, he's 6, right?
He is 6.
Yeah. For a 6-year-old boy, it feels like Pain Blood would be about that's about as good as you're going to come up with.
He is the sweetest, kindest, most loving kid. But the other day he told me, he's like, "Dad, I like violence." I'm like, what?
Was he killing small animals?
He's so funny because he can watch. I mean, we don't let him, he's 6. We are very careful about what he can see. But we see this interesting trend where he can watch things that are, he could watch like a fighting, it could be like Legos or whatever, but the idea of fighting doesn't seem to bother him. What bothers him is interpersonal conflict between people. So he'll be watching a show and they'll be fighting, so he's fine. As soon as a couple people start to disagree on something, or there's like this emotional tension, he puts his hands over his ears and he's like, "This is scary. I don't want to watch this anymore." So
yeah,
he's a sweet guy. He's a feeler,
Yeah,
Just like
he's
me.
a little bit like his dad. Rusty comes off as gruff and impersonable, but his alter ego Matt is loving and kind. Unless you're in a room with Matt, like as I understand it, my people have done some research, and you went back to that estate sale today. Did you?
In fact, I did. Yeah,
how'd that go?
It went well. It was not as high a quality stuff, and it was not the volume that you and I saw, but I still did very well. I bought a bunch of things. Primarily, I did get not really as much watch stuff this time. I kind of flipped the script and I went up to the front this time, and I bought a bunch of jewelry. So some jewelry lots, sterling silver, a couple of gold pieces, 4 or 5 pocket watches, a bunch of antique stick pins and hat pins, and various other things that I think, so I should double or triple my investment on that.
Okay.
So I'm happy with that.
That's nice. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the whole point is trying to at least double your investment. Triple's even better. I mean, if you could go 10x, that's even better. I don't know if people are math people, but that seems like even better than twice as much.
It does. And if I'm spending, the times X or whatever that I need to get is entirely dependent upon how much I spend. I don't want to spend $5,000 to make $400. Right. So if I double or triple my money and I spend $5,000, I'll spend $5,000 to make 10 or 15, but I'm not going to spend $10. I have to make 30 or more. It's not worth my time. But going back to the wrestling thing, I took a little trip recently and I watched an actual luchador wrestling match in Mexico City on a Friday night. And I got to say, I don't have any business being in the ring with any of those guys. I mean, they're not just playing around and fighting in the ring. They're getting up on the edge and jumping off of the outside of the ring onto guys. I mean, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
It's funny. Wrestling is fun. I've seen a lot of documentaries on it. I used to watch wrestling back in the day, and a lot of people look at it and say, "Oh, it's fake," and it is. It's like kabuki theater in a lot of ways. That said, the things that they're doing are very, very challenging and it requires a lot of athleticism. And those guys get hurt. There
Oh
are
my
injuries
goodness.
all the time.
I don't
because
know.
they're doing
there was,
things
there
like
was
that.
a guy that he jumps out, they come in with a stretcher, they get him stuff. He never returned. So like when it happened, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he's going to come out with like a neck brace on, and then he's going to rip it off and go beat someone. But he didn't come back. So I don't know if he was actually injured or not. And it's maybe one of those long-standing, like maybe he comes back the next night he came back,
Or maybe
something.
his
I don't
daughter
know.
had like a play at school and he had to make it to it.
Exactly.
You never know.
It's a birthday party he needed to attend. But I don't, maybe he was. I hope not. I truly hope not. The other teammates and people weren't really acting like it, and other people were like, yeah, that wasn't a doctor. Like that guy who came out, that was not a doctor. So, they did kind of get him up and out really fast. You'd think that if he was actually injured, they would be a little bit more cautious. So who knows, but I went to an art market a couple days later, bought a handful of these wrestling. They make the actual action figures of a lot of these wrestlers from back in the day and also currently. One of the wrestlers we saw is named Mystico, and I found his actual. We watched him, and I found his actual action figure and so my son's been playing with me and with them since I got back. So it was really, really a cool experience. Anybody who has a chance to go to one, I highly recommend it. Super entertaining. I even got him another one and looked him up because my son wanted to know what the names of them all are, and so I'm looking him up, and I found one guy, and then here I see that there was crossover. So it was like, this guy is La Parca was his name, and he is versus Goldberg. So Goldberg was a pretty popular American wrestler for a number of years, and so I got to show him some snippets of Goldberg just dominating this guy. So he looks like a villain. He's kind of got skulls and is black and stuff. But anyhow, that's a deep dive. But it was really entertaining. I really enjoyed it. I could see being out there with a trench coat.
No,
like
I totally feel like I feel like I can see that character.
The high flying acrobatics. I just, maybe in my youthful days.
That would
not so
be
much
the
anymore.
whole thing about it, is that Rusty would go in there in his luchador, and you'd have your mask on and everything, and then you'd rip it off, and people were like, "Oh, Dios mío!" Right?
I rip my own mask off. See, that's the catch right there. Because usually when you're about to be defeated, the worst thing is to have your opponent take your mask off. If I walk in and I just it's like doing the haka, like the Maori people. It's just to frighten you to death. That's what I do. Maybe I got 3 or 4 more masks underneath of that one. You just don't know.
I really honestly wish we could get a wrestler on the show that liked to resell stuff, because that would just be the
wrestling reseller.
The wrestling reseller. Yeah, that would be fantastic. It's on
Man.
there. Hey, brought to you by the good guys at Coors Light. It'd be like it'd be like some gruff. It'd be like Randy the Macho Man or whatever.
Yeah, Randy Savage.
Randy Savage. It'd be so great. Well, listen, I wanted to say before we move on, I dropped the video from your excursion into the Heart of Darkness last 3 weeks ago. It's on the YouTube show, which is just our podcast with video and stuff, but it's on YouTube. It's right in, I don't know, like 12 minutes and then 22 minutes something. But if you want to see Matt doing his thing and me trembling in fear, then
fear and trembling.
Go ahead and take a look at that. It's right in the middle of the show, but I did want to tell people that we put that up there. So, all right. So you went to Mexico City. You had a quinceañera, whatever you were doing there. I don't know what it was, something crazy. And now you're back. How'd the week of sales go?
It was a good week of sales. As I've mentioned before, anytime I know I'm going to take time off, I make some adjustments in the store ahead of time. In this case, I had to put my stores on temporary time off, and I allow people to continue to purchase from me even though I'm not going to be listing during that period of time. And really what that does is it just gives a banner at the top for potential buyers that says, this seller is away until this date. And what that says is you're totally welcome to continue to purchase things from the store. You just need to understand that until that date is reached, they will not be back available working and be able to fulfill and ship that order to you. So I had several auctions.
Don't tell us what you sold, because we're going to save that for the end.
I can give you some general ideas. It's the stuff I always sell, jewelry and various other items, but I had some auctions ending. So I did. I had a good number, 60 or 70 orders to fulfill when I arrived back, and I had a couple of more staggered a day or two after I returned. And so just as I'm kind of finishing fulfillment of the previously sold items, then I have another bunch that are selling, and then the random ones that are just selling from buy it now is here and there. So it's been a good week. You can't see, but my floor has probably 30 some orders that I've paid for the labels. I have the label, but I need to put them in packaging. The Postal Service is arriving today to pick things up from me, and I'll do another round today and tomorrow, probably another 20 or 30 orders. And what is today's Thursday when we're recording this? So provided I think I can get that done by tomorrow mid-morning, then I'll have them come back to my home again tomorrow. It just saves me a trip to the post office. It's also cheaper to buy my labels through eBay because they have some sort of an arrangement, a business arrangement with most of the major carriers. And so if I purchase my label directly through eBay, not only does their system automatically apply the tracking numbers so that the buyer can look at it, I don't have to manually input that, but it's cheaper. There's a percentage that I save every time I buy it. So it would take longer. It would cost gas money to drive to the post office. I'd have to stand in line. It takes my time. I would pay more for the item if I did it that way. So it's really awesome. These accounts with the U.S. Postal Service, for example, are free. They take 15 seconds to sign up, and you can just schedule the Postal Service to come directly to your home and pick up packages. I think it's best for people who sell part-time, a decent amount part-time or full-time, just because they don't want to drive to your house to pick up 2 packages every 3 weeks. They're coming to my house and picking up 100 packages every week, kind of a thing. So that's just a part of a way to stay efficient. As far as like how often they will come?
Yeah, like how often, how many? Does the Postal Service require that?
As far as I know, no. I think that if they're coming and picking up dozens of packages from you a week, it's totally financially worth it because they're making tons of money. I mean, last year, I think I paid the Postal Service like $30,000. That's how much it cost to, well, I say that. Probably 20,000. Maybe part of that would be, no, it probably would be something like that. I mean, 20 to 30 grand in shipping.
Wow.
Like insurance costs, shipping costs, and then the cost of so packaging, labels, all of that. Yeah, I mean it's a lot. You know, if you
you charge the customer?
I do. Yep.
The shipping part.
I either directly charge them the shipping. So if it's just a small item like a couple I'm going to show you in a moment, you know, every year the prices are going up, but I just have to continue to increase. So it's like $4.50 to $5 for most of the per item, most of the things that I sell. And if there are multiple small items, I can fit several of those in a package and still pay that same amount. Or I'll just do free shipping. If it's like a really valuable item, I know I'm going to make good profit. I'll just sort of say it's free, or I'll just build that into the price. If it's going to be $100, I can do $100, $5 shipping, or I can do $105 free shipping. They're going to pay it either way.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes it probably more palatable if you're, you know, when someone sees free shipping. I was like, well, everybody knows it's not free, but it's like an extra added. I have a friend that, and we did a whole show on this, by the way, folks. If you want to go back and listen to Matt talk about dealing with the post office, boxes, different size things that you want to do. A couple people that have listened to the show have said, oh, I really appreciated Matt talking about little items and how, you know, little items are great because they don't require a lot of effort in terms of shipping. They're cheaper to send and all that. Could be really valuable, but they're just cheaper to send. So, but
exactly.
I lost my train of thought there, but you know, oh my God, what was I thinking about? I'll have to edit that part, man.
Shall I launch in? Do we want to talk some updates?
I want to do a couple updates first.
Okay, fantastic.
I want to do a couple updates before we get to that. First off, I would love to know what's happened so far with the watch collection from the estate sale. Now, you bought 8 trillion watches. Mm-hmm. I think I counted 8 trillion. Boxes and oodles. Is oodles a number? I don't know. But oodles and oodles of watches and bands and everything. How's that gone? Have you been able to parse that out, break that down? Where's that?
So I purchased at one time a collection of somewhere around 120 pocket watches, antique pocket watches. Of those 120, that's been maybe 6-7 months ago, I have 2 remaining.
Whoa.
So I've sold the majority of them, and I made pretty good money on it. Not as much as I thought initially that I might, but as I went in and did further research, and everyone wants a deal, right? So you're not going to sell your items all the time at the top price of the competitors. It's going to range up and down. So that has gone well. I sold them. Pocket watches always sell. It's just a matter of how long, not really if they will, because it doesn't matter if it's the broken or in need of repair. There are people who still buy those to repair them and use them for other purposes other than their original purpose. And then in the last couple of months, I bought a bunch of watch-related items, whole watches, pocket watches, wrist watches, and watch components. So everything you can think of that goes into and on a watch, I probably had it. And most of those are still up for sale. I have several that have sold. I have several lots of let's call it 20 pieces in there, and that would range from whole wristwatch without, like, they might have the band on them, they might be minus the band, they might be okay and functional, but they're missing the crystal. Maybe they're functional, but one of the hands has fallen off inside of it. So they're all ones that need repair. They're not perfect condition. And each of those lots right now, I probably have 15 of them that have been bid on, and each of them is somewhere between $35 and $50 per lot on those. And that's just for junky ones that you can't buy that and immediately put it on your wrist or start using it. That's going to need repair. So these people are probably getting them to harvest components to repair other watches, or they're going to repair them themselves, or maybe they have some other purpose for them. But those are going to sell, and I still have probably around 75 to 100 functional vintage women's watches from the 1950s, 1970s, and about 350 men's watches. And probably 75% of those work. They're automatic, so you wind them up in order to get them to function, and you don't need batteries. Those are going to all be selling between, on the low end, probably $30 on the lowest, probably $40 for the most part, all the way up to over $100. But let's just say each of those sold for $50. That's about $9,000 in watches. If some of them sell more of them sell for more than I'm expecting, then it could be more. Now, keep in mind, those, I've already sold some stuff. More is selling right now. I have 550 watches left. And so out of an expense, I think I spent about $2,100 that day. I've probably made back about $800, and I've got at least $10,000 in value left to sell. So that's going to end up being, I'm going to make somewhere between probably $6,000 and $8,000 off of that haul, which is awesome. It's just about how it'll take a little while. I'm going to probably run all of those on auction, see as many of my as I can get sold in a 7-day period as possible. And then the ones that don't, I'll either relist it at the same price, but as a buy it now, or I'll lower the price slightly and run it on an auction a second time. But within 2 to 3 weeks, once I get those started, they'll sell. Now, some people are thinking, man, 350 watches, that'd take me like a month or 2 months to list all of this. It doesn't. For the watch like that, I'm not going to mess with taking the back off. A good front, a backed up front picture with the band on it, the back of the band, and the back of the watch case itself. That's it, 4 pictures per. I can knock out all of those photographs of all 350 of those watches in one day. And then in a day to 2 days, I'll get them listed. So I'll have all of those listed in a week when I get to it. But I've got all kinds of other things, jewelry. I'm selling things for other people as well. So I've kind of pulled back on listing my own stuff at the moment so that I can give my attention to the things that have been given to me by others to sell right now.
Yeah. And you've been working towards that for a while. When so I'm curious, as I'm listening to you, I'm like, kind of the way my brain works. And I'm going to ask you a dumb question, Matt. And I would say when I was a teacher, I said, there are no dumb questions, just dumb kids that ask questions. But so I'm going to ask you one. They
Put
loved
them in their place.
They
Kids.
loved that one. They all middle school kids would just laugh. No, but how do you keep, so if you've got these big lots, like you've said, you bought all those watches, do you put them into a spread? How do you keep track of how much is sold, what's sold? How do you do it? It's just in your head because you've been doing it for a long time?
The only thing that I have to keep track of now is making sure that I keep other people's things that I'm selling separate and I know where they are and I don't confuse them, because the last thing I want to do is mess up on a transaction and getting money, the proper amount of money to somebody for their things that I'm taking control of for them and selling for them. But my own things, the major effort is making sure that they're organized in a way in which it's quick for me to find them, because I don't want to have to spend an entire day looking for items and waste a whole day fulfilling items. I only want to spend an hour or two a day at the most. That means I have to be able to organize and categorize my items in such a way where it takes me 30 seconds or less to find the item. It takes me another 15 seconds to make the label, and if it's just a piece of jewelry, it takes me 5 seconds to drop it in a bubble mailer and then stick that label on it, and I'm done with that item. So as far as what I do, I buy this lot, first thing I do is sort it all. How do I sort it? Well, if there are junky ones that aren't working, I put those in a whole bag. And then when it's time to list them, I list them in a lot of like 30 or 40, and I run them on auction, which I already talked about. I separate all the women's watches from the men's watches. I then further separate the women's watches that are nicer brands from ones that are not nice brands. I further separate from ones that are working and functional from ones that are not currently working. And those will be the ones that aren't working, ones that are lesser brands. I'm going to sell those in small lots of 3 to 5 apiece. Ones that are operational and good brands, I will likely sell those individually. Same thing with the men's watches. So I separate them out. It sort of depends. Most of the time, I'm going to start with the most valuable pieces, list those first, because those are the ones that are going to be most desirable, going to bring the most money. It's my best chance of getting all of my investment money back quickly so that I'm not under the gun to get everything listed. Everything else that sells when I list it is going to be profit. I'm not trying to recoup my investment again. So if I can buy a lot, in that whole lot, I did find 2 or 3 watches that are probably $1,000 watches. So if I buy 500 watches and 3 of them are worth $3,000 and I paid $2,100, if I sell those 3 in 2 weeks' time, I've already got all my money back, and that's just scratching the surface on what I purchased. So now, I'm not going to sit back and, take a day off, but my point is I'm not having to work like a dog. I can get in and do it at my own pace. And it also allows me the freedom and the time to properly research the other stuff, because I don't want to accidentally throw something in a small lot for $20 starting price if it's a $500 watch. You know what I mean? I want to have those separated.
Well, let me ask you a dumb question. Maybe it's not a dumb question. I know we've sort of talked about this in the past, but you just said there's $1,000 watches in there, and all those watches, and you paid $2,200. So 2 watches paid for everything you bought.
I think they will. They haven't yet,
okay,
but that was a real example.
But I guess I wonder why. I guess the estate just didn't know.
It's volume. It's volume.
Okay.
This is a mom and pop establishment. They've been doing it for 30 some years. They have a large volume of things. So I bought 500 watches, let's say, that day. I was one of maybe 20 people that bought that much stuff. And there was still stuff left. The volume of the things that they had was incredible, and that was only half of what they had to sell. They didn't even have more space to put the rest of it out, so they had to wait till today's sale. So they do not have the time to go through and research every single piece. They just absolutely don't. What they're doing is they're selling large cabinets that have drawers full of watches.
Yeah.
And they may do a cursory look, but they just don't have the time. They got to get this stuff out. They don't have enough space. They don't have enough workers. That's just the way that it is.
It's such an interesting process. Like, you've got the estate itself, the person passes away, and then their family's out. They don't know, right? Because they're like, maybe the person that, they wouldn't know if I died tomorrow, my family wouldn't know what the equipment I had was necessarily worth. They'd probably bring it to somebody. And it's that weird food chain, right? So it just gets smaller and parses out. And so it's, I guess in some ways I'm like, wow, they lost X amount of dollars, but they didn't really, because they didn't pay that much for it. So it's just an interesting food chain.
Well, my business started as like a payment for goods. You pay me money and I give you an item that I found. And now as I'm selling for other people, much like an estate sale place does, they sell for other people. They just do it in a sort of a different way, a different, model. But that's more of a service. They're taking care of a problem for you. So people I work with, one problem is I got all these boxes in my closet and I need this closet space. I don't want to donate them because I know they're more valuable than that. I don't want to throw them away. I have this and I don't have the time to sell them. So I'm going to get them money, probably more than they even thought that it was worth. I'm going to do all of it for them. And I'm going to take it out of their way so that they can use their closet.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get that stuff out and they can use their closet. Well, that's almost all they wanted. And the money is just the icing on the cake. Right.
Because the money's it's a sunk cost. It's already in. So it's just looking at the food chain to me is just fascinating. All right.
Truly.
So I look forward to hearing about how this, because I was there. I was at ground zero when this was happening. I'm looking forward to hearing how this stuff is parsed out if you sell the wristbands and all the crazy stuff that was in there. All right, other things that have been selling. So we have the sort of the great white whale, your Ahab to the great white whale, Moby Dick. That painting that I always forget. It's either Christine or Kristen. I think it's Christine, right? Christina. Thank you. I never get it right. Sorry, Christina, if you're listening. Christina's painting. Now we were talking. I got a flyer in my electronic mail talking about Antique Roadshow coming to North Carolina. So where are we with that?
I have yet to put my name in all of the locations, but it is out yet, and that's what we're hoping for, is that we could get on that show, and or we can hear back from some museums that who are expressing interest or could tell us if they do believe it genuinely is by the artist that we suspect it could be created by. If it's not that artist, it's definitely somebody who knew that artist and was a contemporary and was trying to paint in that same way. It has some very specific characteristics. The way the paint was applied, the colors, it's a painting of a woman, the way she's seated, really the contrast of the foreground and the background. There are actually lots of things that make me think it could definitely be this particular artist. It's a French artist, but we haven't got any verification on that yet. So we're sort of in a holding pattern. It's not forgotten or lost, but we're just sort of waiting. She's not in a rush, it sounds like, which is good. Nothing would please me more than to be able to get on Antiques Roadshow and them say, like pie in the sky, is that they say, yeah, like this is it's not signed, but we believe it's by this artist. And if we could get some sort of appraisal or authentication of it, then that would arm myself or her to then approach buyers or approach an auction house. Because if we know, and it can be authenticated, that this is a $40,000 to $60,000 painting, then great for her. You know, what a score. If not, then, or if they say like, hey, it's a very beautiful piece, but it's not the artist and based on this condition, yada, yada. If not, then we still may be able to sell it, and maybe we can find a private buyer that would want it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a good update. Did you, the Gorton's Fisherman that you had behind you forever that you put your fist through in a fit of rusty rage, did you toss that? Is that in the dumpster?
And I hate to say that it is. I had to move it. I had to get it out of my mind space, man. I really wanted, sometimes for creative people out there who are not hyper-focused on one particular thing, so people who have lots of interest, you also may share this characteristic, which is that you can maybe have multiple projects going at once, or maybe you start a project and you either get in over your head, or you're like, I thought I was going to have the time for this, but I don't, or you run into a snag. Maybe you mess something up worse, and now you don't know how to fix that. In this case, it was just damage. I got this influx of interest in the business, and I'm selling things for other people, and that has to do with my bottom line. I got to do this work. I have to fulfill my arrangements with others, and I got to, put food on the table. So I've been putting all of my energy into that, and my creative outlets. I say that my music. I'm always working on musical things, writing some songs and stuff, but the other stuff, my artwork and other things, just kind of had to be on the back burner while I focused on, on the work at hand.
Yeah. You realize that you're like the Leonardo da Vinci of the reselling world, right? I mean, the ultimate Renaissance man, artist, that our musical intro and extra, that's Matt.
It's probably time to update that. I mean, we might want to shift to something
but I really
else.
Like it. It's
make some segments,
Yeah, the segments would be nice, little bridges in between. Yeah, that would
we
be
need
good.
To.
You could send
We've
that to me.
About
I like
it.
that.
Yep.
Yeah. But hey, listen,
I have lots of good ideas. I'm telling you, if I had the time to really put all of my ideas into action, I'd probably be right where I am.
I have 3 great shows out there right now that I'm working on, and I was just thinking, you're saying that, I'm like, oh my gosh, you can get it, just because it's a good idea doesn't necessarily mean you should take it on. It's thing. I did have an interesting idea for an app that you were talking about, like that would be great using AI to use your camera to take a picture, and then it would catalog it for you. Like it would literally say, this is a blah, blah, blah. It uses, I got to imagine that's around the corner. And then it would you'd say all you would have to put on is the location. Everything else would be done for you.
I hope you wrote that idea down and mailed it to yourself so that one day when you're in court, you can prove that this was your idea, because now it's out into the world.
You know what? I got it on air. I got it on air.
I guess that's true.
I got a stamp. I can go back to the court and say, hey, I said it on that day. So, yeah, I think that things like that are not that far away. Let's just put it that way. All right.
You're probably not wrong.
The show continues to grow, but what we started off doing was talking about what you sold. So let's talk about, as we kind of head out today, in our last few minutes, what did you sell this week? I know you went to Mexico City, drank a lot of margaritas. I don't know what you were doing down there.
Oh yeah, just
pozole.
Living,
living the dream.
I had pozole. I had chilaquiles. I had huarache. I had
so good.
did you tacos
have
al pastor. Did I have what?
That's the drink.
Horchata?
Oh,
yes.
so
No,
good.
I did not. I did have some. I did have a little drink with an orange slice and some tahini on it. To chase that. Quite nice.
Quite
and I
delicious.
also tasted, guys. I also tasted crickets and grasshoppers.
Yeah. We're not.
Some people are signing off right now.
I'm gonna edit in cricket noises
part out.
at that part.
Guys,
yeah,
it just tasted.
You mean were they like fried crickets?
Yeah, yeah. They taste. If you just close your eyes and nobody told you what it was, it would taste just like sunflower seeds. Or just like if I cook kale on the grill and it's crunchy, it's just salty and crunchy. That's it.
Yeah, but it's not. You ate a bug, Matt. You are truly a Renaissance man.
Sometimes you need some protein, my man.
Living on the edge. All right. So what did you sell when you were gone, or what have you sold lately? What have you done for us lately, Matt?
What have I done for you lately? Well, I'm about to tell you here. I sold a few things. One thing I sold is this cool little container. I think this is like a little tea container. It's floral. It's hand painted, kind of an enamel over copper, and it's got this sort of a yellow glass beaded handle, and you open it up, and it's a little container. It is an Asian motif. It was made as probably a Chinese export, and this sold for $34. I only paid $5 for it at a thrift store. I'd had it for a little while, but I just sort of slowly lowered the price, and that sold.
Still about 6x over what you paid for. That's
not
good.
too bad at all. This was a fun.
Well, hold on, and I wanted to mention this to people. We've toyed around how do we get the pictures out to people. Facebook made it really hard for us. It was this, and that, and the other thing. We're like, do we add it to the website? And we decided people weren't going to go. If you want to see that, look at the YouTube channel and just scan through and you'll find it. So I just want to tell people, if they're interested, it's the same show. You don't have to re-listen to it. Just scan forward and find the picture and you're good.
Perfect. Another thing I sold, and I've sold a lot of charms lately, solid gold charms and sterling silver charms. I imagine on the next episode I'll have even more and I can show you some. Most of them today have been packaged up, but this next piece is an antique. This is just like an Art Nouveau, kind of late 1800s, early 1900s locket. It's a gold-filled locket, and it has a piece of glass that's oval. It's made to look, it's the color of amethyst, but I do think it's just glass. But it's got a little bail on the top so it can hang as a pendant from a necklace. It doesn't have anything inside. I don't believe it has anything inside. Oh, no, it does. This one did. It has a couple of black and white photographs. So it is a locket, and on either side you can put a photograph. So these are, probably from the 19-teens, I would guess, these photographs. One's of a woman standing by like kind of a pillar in front of a home, like on a porch, and then another one is of a child in just a traditional kid's outfit of the day, standing with his hands on his hips. It was cool. This sold for $65, and this wasn't mine. This was given to me, so this was one of those items I sold for someone. So I don't know what they paid for it, but I typically do a 70-30. It's either a 60-40 or a 70-30 split. So with this individual, because I got a lot of really high-end valuable things from her, it's a 70-30. So she gets 70%, I get 30%. I do all the work, photograph it, list it, fulfill it, and then after 30 days, once I know it's not going to be returned, I pay her out. So, $65, you take 13.5% of that sale away for eBay fees, and that 86.5%, whatever the whole is, 30% of that comes to me. So it's not a ton on something like this, but if I'm selling, 5 or 6 solid gold charms for $100 to $150 every day, and $600 to $800 is coming into the store every day, and I get 30% of that, that ain't too bad. And that's not the only stuff that's selling that.
And you have no sunk costs in it, and you don't have to hang on to it.
Exactly.
That's great. Good
that
job,
was
Matt.
Sort of in the same vein, and this is an example of a gold piece. This is an antique stick pin, and so there are two types of pins. The tall ones, and by tall I mean they can be anywhere from, say, 4 inches up to 8 inches, maybe even bigger than that. Those are called hat pins. But when it's small, it's about 3 to 4 inches long. Those are called stick pins. And people would use those. They'd stick them in scarves. They'd stick them in their shirt. They'd put them in a vest. Like there's all kinds of things that they did with them. This one is 14 karat solid gold, and it's holding at the top a heavy piece of white coral. So coral that would grow on a reef out of the ocean. But this is probably from late 1800s, early 1900s. This sold for $124, and it's about 3.5 grams. However, I would say at least 2 of those grams is the weight of the stone. So the gram weight of the gold is probably a gram and a half. And so probably, a little over a gram, between a gram and a half. And so with gold prices right now, it'd be about $100. So it sold slightly over the base price for gold, like spot gold weight.
So most likely somebody was buying that because they wanted the stick pin.
Correct.
If it was a gold person, they would have paid you less than the spot value of it.
Exactly. It's somebody that collects these.
Look at me learning, Matt. Look at me learning.
No,
I do love the idea of a stick pin. You know, I kind of like, my brain always goes to, yes, if it was dipped in a little bit of poison, you could use it as a weapon. I'm always thinking about how these things, when I'm in my outfit, with
you
my
like
spats.
violence too, it sounds like. Just like my son.
Wait, what is it? Blood pain? Pain blood? What am I?
Pain blood. Dr. Pain blood.
Pain blood.
He went back to school. He needed a little bit more education on how to inflict the most damage. And so
I feel like I would be Dr. Painblood. I would have the whole outfit, and that would be my El Luchador.
All red. You just need to come out saturated in some red outfit, and you're just dripping the whole time you're fighting. You're just getting them red.
Covered in red. We don't know what it is.
Exactly.
It's just red. All right. What else did you sell? Quit messing around.
All right. So I got a little baggie here, and this is actually an item that, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't even still have this because I think I bought it like 3.5 years ago. So that's a long time ago. Originally, when I saw some of these, and so what these are actually antique sugar cubes, and they have like a paper type wrapping over them, and they say like the cafe or the restaurant that they came from, and they have some sort of logo on them that's whatever the logo was for that establishment, that restaurant. Some of them are from different places. Most of them are European. And this was a bag that has maybe 15 in it, and it sold for $30. I had a lot more of these, and I sold a lot individually. This is like the rest that didn't sell on their own, and so I bunched them up and put a lot and just sort of forgot about them. I'd made all my money back from that, so it didn't matter. It just sat here, and then lo and behold, one day, 3.5 years later, someone's like, oh yeah, I need that. And they bought it. So that $30 is all profit because I've long
it's an
since
actual sugar cube.
Yeah, I have several. I mean, I can show, they're all kind of different sizes.
They're not going to use them. They're dropping them in their
domino.
tea.
No, this is probably something that they collect, or maybe they take the wrappers off and they use the wrappers because these are old advertising and some cool old graphics and things. Sometimes people get these things for ideas, reutilize these ideas or these advertising tactics or colors or shapes or things. They'll reuse this in the modern era. There's all kinds of stuff, fashion and that kind of stuff is cyclical in nature oftentimes. And so I don't really know what they're doing with it. I hope they're not dropping it in their tea and being like, this cost me 5 cents less than if I'd just gone out to the grocery store. I really hope not, because these are probably 80 to 100 years old, these sugar cubes. So not selling them for consumption, not for consumption.
Did you ever watch Seinfeld?
Oh, yeah.
Remember Elaine worked for what was his name? The magazine guy who was always off in Burma and different places. I forget his name off the top of my head. Yeah, totally. And somebody out there's like shouting the name right now at the screen. But
of course,
he had purchased an antique piece of cake from the coronation of the King of England.
I do remember that.
And Elaine ate it. That's
right,
what reminds me of the
it wasn't in the fridge. He put it in the fridge or the freezer or something, and she just went in and got it.
It's an antique piece of cake. I'm just imagining this person buys these, and then someone comes along and goes, oh, I need a sugar cube.
Yeah.
Drops it in their coffee. Ooh.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
What else you got?
Last one I'll show you this morning is this pair of vintage eyeglasses. And there's not necessarily anything particularly special about these if you look at them. They just a metal rim glasses. The lenses are kind of, they need to be clean, but they're not scratched. Got sort of the blue back part that goes over the ears. But the thing that's special about these is that I bought these out of Goodwill for $1, and they are sterling silver. So this metal is not just a typical metal that you would see in most glasses. This is solid sterling silver. They're from Japan. And guys, I hate to say it, but I don't like to do this very often because everybody can do what I do. Maybe not at the level, maybe not as fast. I think that now you can't do it day one. You just need that. You need to have some experience, arm yourself, educate yourself. But this purchase, not everybody could do this because the reason they're not marked. And I have never sold them before, but because I have handled thousands of pieces of jewelry from pure silver to sterling silver, 800 silver, 950 silver, and all carats of gold, and gold over silver, gold filled, gold plated. I've handled it all. So I know what silver looks like. I know how it tarnishes. I can even spot a piece of jewelry that has gold vermeil over sterling silver, and I know that there's silver under that, even though you can't see it and it may not be marked. So that's, jewelers can do that. If you handle things, like if you're a Beatles fan, someone can play you the first 2 bars of a Beatles song, and you know that it's the Beatles, and you know what song it is. Right. And that just takes practice. And so I've trained my eyes. So these just sold $45. I paid $1 for them. So someone may use these. I'm sure they're a particular prescription, though it doesn't say what they are on here. Or maybe they'll just melt it and use the silver. I don't know what they're going to do with it for. But this was a cool thing. There are those different categories of things at a lot of thrift stores, Goodwill especially, that you're almost never going to spend more than $1 or $2 on. That would be the little bin of glasses and sunglasses. It would be like the belt rack, the necktie rack. There are several things. And we have another video where we talk about that too. So the vintage sunglasses, like the horn rim glasses and things like that, there's collector markets for that. They'll take those lenses out and put their own prescriptions in, and it looks retro and vintage. Yeah. Sometimes they have other purposes for them. They repurpose them, but don't pass up on those because there can be some deals. And as you mentioned before, there are certain brands that a thrift store may not know about or care about. Maybe a really high-end brand, but not a commonly known one. And those are getting tossed in with the other dollar glasses that are broken and no one cares about. And you could pull out I've done it many times, $200, $300 pair of glasses for $1. Yeah. So that's not this example, but they are out there.
There are hobbyists out there that take things like, we talked about Bakelite radios that are made from the Bakelite plastic, and they're old school radios, like my father-in-law and others. The whole groups of people out there that take out the innards of these radios and put in like up-to-date Bluetooth and all that stuff, but they basically refurbish and rebuild these, and they're amazing. So I imagine that with glasses, there's probably a whole bunch of people that are doing stuff like that.
I wouldn't doubt it. So that's just a handful of things, a few different categories. None of these were super high-end sales. However, I do have a bunch of gold items, jewelry, and some other things that have sold this week, will be selling between now and next week. So I'll have some higher-end things to show and discuss next time as well. But for people who are doing part-time stuff, if you can pay $1 and make $30, you're pretty happy with that. And, get out there and look, because those deals are out there. I have multiple estate sale places I go on a regular basis. There are always things priced well, and sometimes it's bizarre. Sometimes the stuff that I know is not very valuable seems to be the first thing that's grabbed. And I don't know. I'm assuming they're not trying to resell it. They just wanted it. And sometimes the things that I think will go the fastest are there the second day. And not only do I get them, but I get them 20% off. So don't think, well, all the good stuff is gone, if you don't get there the first day, because that may not be true.
Yeah, people just might not know what they're looking for. I mean, there's lots of times where you run into that where you have to know, like you said, you've looked at thousands of pairs of glasses. You have to know what you're looking for at a lot of times. So keep training, keep working on. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I tend to agree with you on this one. If you could find an area to become an expert in that you can make a living at, narrow it down, because that can be, it's easier. And it's also, you become the expert in it, so that
you might say, I love jewelry, and you get on there and there's like 50 million pieces of jewelry for sale on eBay, but if you become focused on jewelry that involves a scarab beetle during like the Egyptian revival period when a lot of jewelry was being made, and that's all you buy and sell, and you look up, Egyptian revival scarab jewelry, you might only find 600, and you're like, well, there's not a whole lot of there. if you sell that and in a couple years, everyone who likes that stuff goes to you, and then someone looks that up and 400 or 500 out of those 600 are yours, that's pretty good. If they're going to, if everybody wants that. So don't be afraid of that small number. It's the same thing with the t-shirt world. Like if you're generating logos and selling t-shirts, you want to be as specific as possible, because when people will research something and when it's too broad, they keep putting in queries to narrow it to specifically what they want. So they might go in and say, I want a men's t-shirt. Okay, too many. Men's t-shirt gift. Too many. Gift t-shirt men accountant. And then now you're narrowing it down. They're trying to get their boss, their accountant boss, a funny t-shirt for his birthday. Birthday t-shirt accountant, men's. Now, if you focus on just that, it's not everybody out there. Yeah, out of 300 billion people or whatever in the world, there aren't that many percentage-wise that are buying that shirt. But if there's 10,000 people and you corner the market on that, you're that guy or that woman now, and you're going to do very well for yourself. So that is a good word. Try to, and it's the same thing for YouTube, content creators, podcasts, whatever. If you get a niche, you can get a pretty strong following.
Yeah, and a niche, it's key. It really is. Being a generalist is tough. You got to be like already famous to be a generalist. But all right, good word, Matt. Anything? Remember, guys, as we always say, follow, like, and subscribe. We love those emails. Oh, quick update. We did hear back from Yvette, our friend Yvette, so shout out to Yvette, and we are going to work on getting her on as a brand new seller. It'd be fun to talk to somebody that's just getting into it.
Wonderful.
So we'll see if we can work that up. We've got a lot of fun, exciting things coming up. Remember, if you get a chance, shoot us an email to ask us something, tell us something. We'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, any last words, Matt? Anything you want to tell the people before we head out of here?
Just stay warm.
Amen.
This is a good time to kind of go back into your old inventory and find creative ways to sell it or just donate it and free up that space. People are still buying right now money that they got for Christmas, but almost always February and into March is a low sales time of the year. So if your store starts to not do so well, don't be alarmed. But if you're new to it, you need to look at it. The online sales and reseller world mirrors very much the regular retail world, where there are high months of high sales and then there are lower months. And February is the month where kids are back in school. You spend a lot of money in December. You have spent the money you got in January, and you're like, whoa. I need to halt my spending for a little while. And then it starts to pick back up in March, about mid-March. So that's coming up. If you haven't done it already, start to save a little money back. Don't put so much back into reinvestment so that you can weather those months that aren't so great.
Yeah, good word. All right. Well, with that, we'll be back with a brand new show next week. We wish everybody a healthy, happy, and warm week for those of us that are getting hit by polar vortexes.
Yeah.
Good thoughts to those people in California that are dealing with fires.
Yes.
Keep us posted, if you will, folks. And otherwise, we'll talk to you soon.